Well, hey, welcome back. My name is Chris Allen, and I'm the host of the Always About People show. And today I have a special guest, Kevin Miller. Kevin, great to have you.
It's good to be here, Chris.
We're excited about this episode because I believe it's relevant. I believe it's important, and I believe that each of you can learn something specific about this given the times that we're in. On this show, we talk about all things people, the things that relate to people, culture, leadership in the workplace. And I believe that there is a specific topic that we need to cover, which is why we brought in Kevin today. Excited about this conversation. But in light of all the articles that you're reading about the Great Resignation, I think we've got to cover just a topic on what's really going on in the workplace and how do we attract and retain talent in this environment. Obviously, this is a topic that's sort of being talked about because you're seeing it in the news. Everyone's got an opinion on it. And so I wanted to bring an expert so we could have a conversation about what's really going on and how we can change some things within our businesses. So for you leaders that are listening, for those of you that own companies, for those of you that are struggling to retain talent, or even for those of you who are trying to attract talent, we want to have a conversation about brand and strategy. That's why Kevin is here today. He is the founder and principal of Popular Demand. He will give you some more specifics on what his company really does and what his firm helps other companies do. But I am just honored to have you with us today, Kevin. Thanks for
Chris.
Joining me.
Yeah, it's my honor.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. He came all the way from the great state of Texas, wearing his cowboy boots and everything. Kevin, I think maybe a place to start would be help everyone understand what Popular Demand does.
Sure.
And man, we're excited about the launch of this for you, but maybe you could give them a kind of overview.
Sure. Yeah. So recently launched Popular Demand, as Chris said. We're a strategy group, first and foremost. So we're helping companies who are trying to figure out how do we grow, but not just grow, but how do we create sustainable growth, something that's long-term. So we talk a lot about brand strategy. We talk a lot about demand generation. We talk a lot about event strategy, but how are we helping companies position themselves as thought leaders, as influential in their marketplace, and how do they stand apart from the other people in their industry? And so we create the strategies to help them do that. And it's not just what's going to improve results in 5 weeks and 5 months, but how do we help them get where they want to be in 5 years?
Gosh, such an important topic. And the way that we wrote the title today was around recruitment marketing.
Mm-hmm.
It may not necessarily be the verbiage that people understand.
Mm-hmm.
How would you define recruitment marketing?
Yeah, I think recruitment marketing for me actually is a wider approach, because it's not just finding talent, attracting talent and retaining talent, engaging talent, and helping them understand what it's like to actually work at your company. But it actually is also helping your customers understand what is it like to be an employee at that company. And we've seen, I think, in recent months and even a year through the pandemic, is people want to work with organizations and they want to do business with companies that treat their people well. And we're seeing that kind of as a resurgence of people saying, yeah, not only do I like your product and your brand, but I also want to know, how do you treat your people? And are you somebody I want to do business with and I want to spend money with?
Yeah, so I think you've already touched on this. Maybe we can build it out a little bit more, but why is a good recruitment marketing strategy so important in the life of an organization today?
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's no mystery that there's a talent shortage out there. And so it's not only you competing for customers and trying to make sales, but you're competing for people to want to come work for your company. And so it's almost the same approach as you would have if you were trying to make sales and get new customers, is how are you presenting yourself in a way that draws people into who you are and that is creating a demand for your culture?
Yeah, a demand, Popular Demand. He's
You're onto something there.
Bringing it full circle. Well, I think this is interesting because, some of what I'm reading about the Great Resignation is that people are leaving companies because either they don't align with the values, they're not feeling purpose, they're not really growing, or maybe if I put it in broader terms, they don't feel like they're a part of the community. And so some of what I'm hearing you say is that a recruitment marketing strategy is on one level to attract customers from the outside, external, but it's the recruitment marketing strategy is about internally
Absolutely.
making people feel like they're a part of a community.
First and foremost, and I think the key there is that they have to match, right? As whenever you have marketing in your name of your company or in your services, one of the things that we commonly get asked to do is, hey, will you come write a great mission and vision statement and core values that get us more customers? Like we want it to really appeal to them, and we want them to want to do business with us because of those words that we put on the wall. But you and I both know that's not what makes a good culture. It's not words on a wall. It's taking them off the wall and putting them into practice in your company. And so customers see right through that, just like people see right through that. And it's almost a bait and switch, because if you bring people in and you tell them this is what our culture is like, and then they experience something very different, man, that burns trust. It creates division. And you see people turn over, and you see attrition rates high. And so it's no different. Again, it's no different than the strategy on how you look at drawing customers in, is how you look at drawing your talent and the people that you want to work for your company. And it has to be a kind of a dual approach.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think maybe I'll pause for just a second. And for those of you that have any questions, obviously while we're live, feel free to just submit a question, ask a question. We'd love to answer it. We want to make sure that we're covering the topic with the questions that you have. Obviously, I'm developing questions as we go, but we'd love for you to be engaged with us. I think when I think about recruitment marketing, and I think about the questions that I'm getting from business owners, what are some real practical things that a business owner could be thinking about in terms of a recruitment marketing strategy? Maybe some things they need to answer, some things they need to include in maybe a digital strategy. How would you answer that?
Yeah, so I think it's being authentic. And so a phrase that I love is be human and be helpful. And so it's the same way with when you're approaching recruiting talent, is how are you through the public channels and all the touch points of your brand? How are you representing what it's like to actually work at your company? And so it's not just loading it full of stock photos or listings or a directory of jobs, but it's describing for people what is a day in the life of our company look like. And so whether you're doing that visually through photographs and you're celebrating the things that you do as a culture publicly, or whether it's using digital marketing strategies and social media strategies to get that visual out. But also, I think what makes it even more effective is when you're actually utilizing the people in your culture to talk about it. So how are you spurring advocacy within your culture so that they want to go be the brand and they want to go tell people what it's like to be there, and they're sharing those things on their social media. They're sharing those things in their circles and their network. And that to me is more powerful than just, hey, this is the kind of culture we are, and we're a brand, and this is what it's like. But when you get the people that are actually part of it every day to talk about it, it's so much more effective.
All right, I'm going to play devil's advocate.
I love it.
I'm an owner. I don't like social media.
Okay.
In fact, I don't like it at all.
Okay.
Why do I have to do this?
Yeah. So first question I would have for you is, why are you letting your preferences outweigh your strategy? So just because your preference isn't to use social media doesn't mean it's not an effective strategy. But again, if you can find ways to creatively equip your team, and there's a solid strategy in place where, hey, this is how we want to talk about, the way I would position this to my team if I were asking them to do this is say, hey, look, the people that you're attracting are the people you're going to have to work with every day. So how do you want to represent what it's like to be here so that you bring the right people in? So I was telling you a story earlier about, I went to tour a software as a service company, brilliant company, growing really fast. And the CEO was touring me around the building, and there were these dusty ping pong tables, and there were these kind of playground balls and little tricycles that were off in the corner and had broken wheels. And I was like, so is this like the graveyard of fun? What is this room? And he said, yeah, we kind of learned that we thought that's what people wanted. We thought they wanted this fun culture where we play ping pong all the time and we, do all these things. But in reality, what we were attracting is people that just wanted to play ping pong all day. They didn't actually want to do the work. And so the people that were here to do the work and they enjoyed the culture that we had because we were innovative and we were creative and we were on the cutting edge, and that's what attracted them. They were distracted by the people that were just there to have fun. And so it's sitting down and determining who is it that we are, and how do we want to communicate that effectively to people outside? And so it's not just what you think the culture du jour is. So if we put ping pong tables out there, we're going to get all these great people that are talented. Maybe not, maybe not. And so it's really evaluation of what you have, and then how do you want to communicate that externally?
Oh, that's good. So I think, if I'm to think back through this, recruitment marketing is really about aligning the values of who you are, your mission, your purpose, your vision, with how you're broadcasting that to both the outside world, but also how you represent yourself internally. And I think we are now in an age with this next generation where I think, based on the latest statistic that I've seen, the average person will look at 9 different pieces of information before they decide to come work for your company. Those 9 pieces of information could be a website, a social media profile. They will look at the owner's profile. They will look at executive leadership profiles. They will look at Glassdoor reviews. They will look at any other reviews on Google or any other platform. They are going to go in and do their homework. And how you are portrayed online through the digital platforms will determine whether somebody wants to come work for you or not. Now, what we aren't saying, please don't hear us saying this, because I know we're in agreement on this. Don't just build a perception that isn't reality.
Correct.
Because the worst thing you could do is attract people on a premise of who you think you are or who you want to be. And then they get there and realize this isn't anything like what you claimed to be.
Exactly.
I'm guessing that individual will not last long.
No, they won't. And they'll go quickly, because when things don't match, and especially when you're talking about an emotional thing like joining a culture and you're putting that forward as a draw, if that doesn't match, there's no quicker way to burn trust and to create that kind of division. And it's like the old analogy that we talk about in business is, if you're just 1 degree off after a year, you're really, those paths really start to get even further apart. And so authentic representation of what your culture really is like is key to this whole strategy.
So that triggered another thought. And Kevin spoke of it earlier around having real pictures, real images, because the question that people are asking in the recruiting process is, will I fit in? And I think that goes to a deep insecurity probably in all of us, that anytime we walk into a new setting or a new community or a new culture, we would be asking, will I fit in?
Right.
Everything from clothes that I wear. Do people look like me? Do they act like me? Do they have the same values? And so one of the important things to portray, at least in the recruitment marketing process, is, who are we? Who are we really?
Right.
What do we like? What do we do? What do we value? How do we interrelate to one another? And it's in showing that people get to decide, hey, I think I'd be a part of this community.
Yeah. And so I think it's a little bit of a combo of both. So there has to be a bit of an aspirational piece to it. So if the culture that you desire and that you want to achieve is not necessarily your current state, that's okay. A lot of companies deal with that, right? But it's also not swinging the pendulum to the other side and trying to only represent the opposite of what that looks like. So again, go back to the graveyard of ping pong tables. If that's not who you want to be, then that's not necessarily what you want to represent. The other key is, you also want to represent the best of what you have. So those people that are in your culture that are ambassadors and champions, and they're the ones out front holding the flag for your culture, absolutely feature those people on your social media channels, on your digital marketing, your email channels. The thing we talk about a lot is people really couldn't care less about your statistics. So what they want to see is people. They want to see people interacting with each other. They want to see people, having fun. They want to see people enjoying their work. And it doesn't always have to be, like you highlight every birthday celebration and you think, oh, well, we have fun because we all have a cake and we sing, but what is it really like to work there? Because not everybody is looking for the parade around the room every day at noon. And not everybody's looking for people riding in between their desks with scooters and tricycles. Yeah. They might be looking for just value in their work and being part of an organization that's cutting edge, or being part of an organization that's disrupting or changing an industry. That may be the draw. So it's also just like we would give anybody on a marketing strategy, is understand your customer. Who is it that you want to draw on? What is it that is important to them? You were showing some statistics to me earlier that were interesting. So how do you draw people that are looking for something different? And if you're not I think this is the key. If you're not what they're looking for, that's okay.
Absolutely.
That's okay.
Absolutely. And maybe that touches on this idea that part of recruitment marketing is attracting the right people, but hopefully you're repelling the wrong people. And again, that might be a harsh way of saying it too, but ultimately that's what's best for both the employer and the candidate or the employee. Is like, look, here's who we are. If you want to come and be a part of our community, come on.
Yep.
We're going to welcome you in. We're going to celebrate this. If you can't fully align with our values, it would be best for you to go find where you do align.
Right.
It's really that easy.
Yep.
All right. Look, Kathy Baker just sent in a question. Southwest Airlines does an amazing job with this by always featuring their employees at all levels in all marketing. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So actually came from that world, worked in commercial aviation for a while, doing some branding things through uniform programs. And they absolutely do this. So one of the things that was different is, it'd be really easy for Southwest Airlines to only feature pilots and flight attendants, right? Because that's kind of glamorous. It's the sex appeal of that role. But one of the things they do is they highlight their ramp agents and their baggage handlers and their fuelers, and everybody from the top down has equivalent value in that organization. And so, yes, the Southwest way, Kathy, is exactly what they highlight, is that everybody in this culture is important. It doesn't matter what your pay grade is, but from the CEO down to the person who's loading baggage into the baggage hold, everybody has value, and their culture is very attractive. It's they don't have a lot of problems with recruiting because people want to be part of that culture.
Yeah, I may not quote these statistics perfectly, but McKinsey at the beginning of September came out with some really cool data. They interviewed over 2,500 employees, I think over 250 different managers from different companies. What they were looking at was what people are looking for in the workplace and how it's aligning or not aligning with what the other side thinks. So they were asking employees, what do you need from an employer? And they were asking employers, what do you need from employees? Which is a pretty cool survey. What they found was that there was a disconnect at times between what the employee needed or wanted and what the employer thought they did. So we talked already about fun in the workplace is not defined by ping pong tables, scooters, or other playground toys. Right. It's like that fun in the workplace is actually feeling valued or engaged or purposeful in your work. What this survey actually identified is that employees value being valued by their organization as the most important factor, being valued by their direct manager or supervisor as the second most important, and number 3, belonging, feeling of belonging. What's fascinating about this is that it goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the needs of people, that they would feel like they are loved and belong, that they would grow in esteem, and that they would have the opportunity to become the best version of themselves. That's how they're defining fun or purpose in the workplace. So when Southwest Airlines shows people in their organization at all levels, what they're really showing is that these people are valued. They're valued by the organization. They're valued by us, and they are a part of the family. Yeah. And they're doing an incredible job. Yeah, they are. And they've actually set a model for other organizations, not only within commercial aviation, but externally for doing the same thing. Is how are you showing all levels of your company and using that as a way to attract the right kind of talent to your company? And so I can tell you, working at Southwest is very different than working at Delta or working at American Airlines or working at any of the other companies. And they're okay with that. So the kind of people that want to come work for Southwest may be a little different than another company. And again, that's okay. Yeah. It's like when your Southwest employee stands up on the counter and does like a stand-up comedy routine. Not everybody's going to fit that. No. But that's okay because Southwest doesn't really want you either. And I think for the fun of the conversation, I'm going to state it that way. It's like, you don't want to work for Southwest and they don't want you either. It's a perfect deal. So let's go find the place where you fit, where you align with the values, where you become part of the community and you feel like you belong. where you're appreciated, where your steam's growing. And again, back to human needs.
Well, I got an opportunity several years back to go out to Zappos headquarters in Las Vegas and talk to some of their department heads. And I don't know if you know this, but they offer to new employees after they go through the onboarding process. And I don't know if they still do this, but back then they did. They would offer you a $2,500 check if you would leave. So you'd go through the onboarding, you'd go through the orientation, and they would say, look, we don't want you to work here if this is not what you're on board with. And so we'll actually pay you to leave. And I thought that was a brilliant strategy, because we all know, and I think every statistic will show, that it's more costly to keep somebody on that is not thriving in the culture that they're in than it is for them to exit at the beginning. And Zappos realized that. And I think a lot of companies have followed suit with that strategy of, hey, look, if you don't want to be here, that's okay. Let's put you in a place where you are going to thrive.
All right, let's give some practical insights.
Okay.
And I'm kind of interested in gleaning this from Kevin while he's here too. This is free. I've got a website. My company's got a website. I've got a social media account. It's on LinkedIn. I've got a profile. I haven't really looked at it in like 5 years.
Okay.
But our company has a website. We built it about 5 or so years ago. What do I need to do? I mean, today, what are some simple things I should be either thinking through or doing to create a more effective recruitment marketing or recruitment brand?
Yeah. So I think the first step is, if you don't have a careers page or a jobs page or an application page, get one and put one on your site. I think that's an easy kind of low hanging fruit. And then think very strategically about what that page looks like, and think about the user experience and user interface of that page. So again, if it's just careers and then it's 5 listings of a position and a form to fill out or a place to upload a resume, I'm not sure that's the most effective way to communicate what it's like to work at your company. Now, that page can include those elements, but put some examples on there. Put a video from an employee talking about what it's like to work there. Put some pictures of your team and what they do on a daily basis. And again, don't fake it, right? This is not a fake it till you make it kind of scenario. So show them actually working in the company, show them what they wear to work, show them what it's like to the office environment. If you have an office environment, if you have remote employees and some of your people are remote, show that as well. Be authentic with the imagery and the visual and the branding and the messaging that you're putting on that page, so that people really get a good understanding of what is it truly like to be there. So obviously that's first and foremost, just have that there. And the funny thing is, you'll actually find a lot of your customers will go to that page when they're exploring your company to see, okay, what is it like to be at that company? But then social media obviously is same concept, same principles, same application, but just on the social media platforms. And LinkedIn is great. A lot of people, I mean, I use LinkedIn every day. I know you do. So if you're a professional, that is the new platform for learning about companies.
Yeah, I want to go back to Careers website, and we'll keep getting some practical insights from Kevin. But a couple things on the career website. First, I think you need an actual career tab where it's actually seen as an important aspect of your website.
Absolutely. Yep.
On the careers page, what Kevin is recommending is that you get some form of mixed media. Do a video of an employee's story, how they got to the company. Show some pictures of employees who are actually working there in the environment that they're working. So it's one thing to have a picture of Chris and his family and their dog, but that's not at work.
Right.
Show me at work. I mean, a picture of me sitting behind a mic would be really interesting, might attract some people. But it's like, how do we show what it's actually like to work here?
Yep.
And then same thing on social media accounts. If you haven't updated LinkedIn in 5 years, if you don't have a company LinkedIn page, that would be a place to start. Get employees to link back to that. Okay, other practical insights.
Yeah, so I think the other one is, when you're actually actively looking for positions and roles, is I would recommend bucking a little bit of the standard job description, and you see the same format every single time. Create what I would call an ideal candidate persona profile, what it's like, but describe your culture in detail. Describe what it's like to work there, and don't just put the good stuff. So put the challenges that people are going to run into in the culture. And now, obviously, this is not a place to air dirty laundry, right? But almost describe for them what is the persona and profile of somebody who would not thrive at your organization. And you can put that in a positive light. But again, the most effective recruitment marketing strategy for me is having people read it and immediately go, yeah, not for me.
That's right. Yeah.
More than them going, yes, I want to be a part of that. Right. It's them reading it and go, yeah, you know what, based on what they're looking for and the description of that culture, I'm not a fit. I'm going to go look somewhere else. Man, that saves them time. It saves them energy. It saves them most likely emotional trauma later down the road. And it saves you a lot of money and time by preventing a bad hire.
I just thought about how that ties into the interview process as well. Because if you've been clear in the recruitment marketing process, then that means that you could sit down with a potential candidate and you could say, do you feel like you understand who we are?
Right.
And if you don't think that a candidate would say, yes, I absolutely know what you're all about, then you probably haven't done an effective job in marketing who you are.
Sure.
And so as I think about that, it's like, be bold. You have the ability to be bold in this because you don't want to just attract anybody. And I know you wouldn't think about that in any other area of your life, but it's like we just, under the Great Resignation, it's like, just find people. Let's just find people. Well, that's not what you want. You want people who are aligned with you and your culture and your values, and who, at least from the intent, want to stay around a while.
Sure. Yeah. They have to absorb what they read about you, and it has to resonate with them in a way that makes them want to respond. And it's no different than how we would advise somebody who was trying to gain customer insights through a sales function is ask them. That's a great question that you said, is sit down with your candidate and go, what do you know about us? Or what do you believe is true about our organization? You talk about some insight. I mean, if they describe to you and they describe something that is completely not what you are, well, you got some work to do in your messaging, right? Because if that is the perception that they're leaving with, then it may be the wrong perspective. And so we need to evaluate, what are people actually taking away from our website and our social media? What is it like to work here? And so if they come back to you and they say, yeah, I would love to work here because you guys only work, 4 days a week, and on Fridays, everybody goes and goes to the beach. Well, okay, well, maybe that's one time you went to the beach and you represented that, but don't make that your, the thing that you're advertising to everybody is we go to the beach every Friday. So, I mean, it's simple stuff like that sometimes, that just asking them, what do you believe about our company would allow you to see where you're not aligned in your messaging.
Yeah. Another question, how important do you think employee referral programs are within a good recruitment marketing strategy?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. So the first step is create an environment that employees want to tell others about, right? So it's just like a product advocacy is you want them to actually believe in the product and defend it. And so absolutely, the first thing is make sure that you have a culture that people do want to talk about. So the key to any good referral program or any advocacy program, I think, is finding what is it that actually motivates the team. And a lot of times we jump to the financial reward right away, right? Or an extra day off or whatever. Think about what is it that they're actually, what are you actually asking them to do? And it goes back to the earlier conversation we had. Sometimes it's just, who do you want to work with? Who do you want to sit next to you? Who do you want to be on a Zoom call with for 4.5 hours? Who do you want to talk to every day? Who do you want to collaborate with? This is a great way for you to bring in the people that you want to work with. And so it's just like we would advise anybody on a customer strategy, be very specific in who you're looking for. Because it's really, I think the most evil word in marketing is anyone. Referral marketing is, do you know anyone that should work here? Right. That's really hard to pinpoint when you say, do you know anyone? But do you know somebody who would love this about our culture? Do you know somebody that would thrive in this? Be specific, and then you'll see your team respond. And they'll respond without a lot of times a financial reward tied to it.
Okay. So I agree with that. And in principle, from a psychological standpoint, I completely agree with it, because I think what we do is we add economic rewards to employee referral programs assuming that a dollar amount is going to get somebody to tell somebody else about the brand.
Right.
When you're proud of a brand, you wear it, you tell other people about it. And I just think what we need to do a better job at, or a more effective job at as employers, is building a brand that people want to be a part of.
Absolutely.
When people want to be a part of your brand, they want to tell other people about it as well. And that is recruitment marketing. Well, Kevin, anything that you want to wrap up, anything that you want to conclude, anything that you could feel like, man, we haven't talked about this, but I think this is really important to recruitment marketing, or anything that you're doing around brand strategy. Go.
Yeah. So I think one of the big things to think about is sometimes if it's hard to describe your culture, that's okay, especially if you've got a culture that's unique, right? So how do you find a way to talk about your culture in a way that doesn't necessarily attach to your logo or your tagline? So is there something that you're using to identify what it's like to be part of that culture that not only creates a kind of a brand for your culture, but it also equips your people to talk more easily about it? So a lot of people, I know that I go into companies and I interview employees and say, what's your elevator pitch? When people ask you, what do you do? And they stumble and fumble over it because they don't really know how to describe it. But then when I say, what's it like to work there? What's a day in your life look like? Man, a lot of times in a good culture, they come alive and they can really describe it. Well, how are you taking what they're saying and using in a public forum to describe your culture? So that, and then I think the other encouragement that I would have for anybody is the same encouragement I would have for anybody working on their brand, is treat your recruitment marketing and your talent marketing and your cultural marketing the same way that you would if sales were down or if you were having operational issues. Put the same attention and intentionality and design behind that piece of your business that you would for any other piece of your business, because it's extremely important. And I don't know if you've heard this, but it's all about people.
Oh, somewhere I heard
that. You heard
somewhere.
That? It's pretty smart, but it is all about their people. And so don't neglect the ability to use the public touch points that you have for your brand to bring in the right talent. And then again, you may see customers follow them right in the door because they're excited about how you're treating your people and what you're doing with your brand to create impact in the lives of others.
Awesome. The rising requirement of recruitment marketing. It's a mouthful. I did it on purpose, but I do believe that we've gained some really practical insights today. Thank you, Kevin, for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
It was awesome. And I just want to thank you for joining us. I also want to encourage you to like, subscribe, be a part of this, get updates on Facebook. You can sort of sign up to be a part of it so that you'll get regular updates on when the next show is coming. And we're just going to try to keep bringing relevant topics with great experts who can provide practical insights that will improve you, your leadership, your business. It is always about people. And we just thank you for joining with us again today. Thanks to Kevin. Remember, the founder and principal of Popular Demand Strategy Group.
Yep. Shameless plug, populardemandgroup.com.
Populardemandgroup.com. You got it. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.